Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Maulana Muhammadin wa alihi wa azwajihi wa zurriyati ajma'in. In this series, we are going to try to understand or develop a critique of Islamic banking and finance and Islamic economics as well. I'll try to understand the foundation on which these disciplines or pseudo-disciplines are based. And basic motivation is to clearly differentiate Islam from capitalism and Islamic civilization from capitalist civilization. Okay, so we'll start with this. Inshallah, we'll go slowly. This is part of our, we are trying to develop a critique of Islamic constitutionalism in other series, and in this series we'll try to develop a critique of Islamic banking, finance, and capital Islamic economics, and they are part of our overall project to develop a critique of Western social sciences. Okay, so we'll start with Islamic economics and its background, and then as we go ahead, we'll focus on Maulana Taqi Usmani's justification of Islamic economics and all that, because Maulana Taqi Usmani is important because he comes from the chain of orthodox scholars. So his justification of Islamic economics has important consequences. Okay, so the initiative to provide Islamic economic justification for capitalism. So in our view, Islamic economics is a justification for capitalism, albeit Islamic justification. And obviously, this justification is misguided because Islam and capitalism are two diametrically opposed system of life. So there is some deep misunderstanding or some deep misunderstanding about Islam or capitalism or combination of these two. Okay, so and obviously there are imperialist efforts to do exactly that, because Islam presents an alternative to capitalism. So if that alternative is compromised, then it is good for capitalism. The initiative to provide an Islamic economic justification for capitalism dates back to the early 70s. Its leading exponents in those days were Najatullah Siddiqui. He's Indian Muslim. Now, at the center of Islamic economics, Jeddah, Khurshid Ahmed, that's Pakistani Muslim, visiting professor at the King Abdulaziz University, and Omar Chapra of the Saudi Arabian Monetary Agency. I think he is Pakistani or Indian as well. The subdiscipline of Islamic economics was invented to justify Saudi policies, Saudi capitalist economic policies. So Islamic economics is a new field, a new discipline. It's not an Islamic discipline, it's a capitalist discipline. It's a discipline which is nowhere to be found within traditional Islamic disciplines, because in traditional Islamic disciplines, the probably it's worthwhile to talk a bit about it. I think I missed all this, so I would have to do it again. Doesn't matter. So Islamic disciplines basically, you can divide Islamic discipline into three major types. So you have Islamic belief system and the disciplines related to it, and then ilm al-fiqh, which deals with actions, outward actions, action towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, actions toward your own self, and actions towards others. So these are all dealt with in ilm al-fiqh. And also then you have tasawwuf or fiqh al-batin, which deals with your issues with your inner world and how it relates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to yourself and to others. And all these three branches are in turn anchored in the Islamic worldview as a whole. So this distinction, or ilm al-fiqh and ilm al-aqaid and ilm al-tasawwuf, they are not autonomous disciplines. They are related to each other as well as they are anchored in the Islamic worldview as a whole. But when modernity develops in a society, what it does is what they call decentration, which is differentiating different disciplines and making them autonomous and severing their relationship with the worldview as a whole. Because without that, you can't have secularization in a society. So within Islamic civilization, it's impossible to imagine a discipline called Islamic economics, because the issues related to Islamic economics are dealt with in fiqh and they are dealt with in tasawwuf and they are dealt with in ilm al-aqaid as well to a certain extent, and they are all closely related to each other, and as a whole they are anchored in Islamic worldview. But in order for a discipline like Islamic economics to develop, what you need is first divorce Islamic economics from fiqh, and then divorce fiqh from ilm al-aqaid and ilm al-tasawwuf, and divorce all these three from the Islamic civilization and Islamic worldview as a whole. And that's what happened. That's why, generally speaking, Islamic economists has been all, by and large, modern educated secular professors, and the ulama who have like Maulana Taqi Usmani, those who have tried to do this, they come from tradition of ulama who have been open to secularism because of the specific situation of Muslims in India, for example, and Pakistan during the colonial era and afterwards. So, for example, the Deobandi tradition most influenced by secularism is the one which is related to Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi, and Maulana Taqi Usmani comes from the same tradition as well. So the development of discipline like Islamic economics presupposes secularization of Islamic knowledge system and secularization of Islamic movements and secularization of Islamic work to a certain extent. So these are very dense issues, but we will unpack them slowly in this series, inshallah. Okay, in the 1980s, Prince Muhammad Al Faisal, I think he's son of Shah Faisal, led the Islamic banking movement to justify Arab integration into the imperialist financial system. And it is no coincidence that this developed in Saudi Arabia, because Wahhabi movement has been one of the first very successful secular movement within Muslim movements. And obviously, the deep links of the Saudi movement with imperialism, first with British imperialism and then with American imperialism, is well known, and that played a huge role as well. So the IMF and the World Bank were closely associated with Prince's initiative. Samiyat Darwish, a director of the World Bank, became the president of Faisal's Darul Mal al-Islami. IMF researchers Mohsin Khan and others started providing apologies for Islamic finance in the professional literature, Islamic apologies, in justifying Islamic finance. And obviously this justification was not deeply fiqh related, but was generic on the line of the in line with the Islamist literature. So it's generic in the sense that it was based on Quran and Sunnah and their reading by these authors. Within Pakistan, Ziauddin Ahmad and Fahim Khan played a similar role. Especially Ziaul Haq's regime was very and before Ziaul Haq Bhutto as well. But in Ziaul Haq's era, obviously Islam was used to justify Islamic economics and all those things more and more. So, okay, I think that's enough in terms of education. In terms of introduction, we'll continue this from here, inshallah. It's a more substantial debate starting. Islamic economics represent an attempt at legitimizing the ethics and institutions of capitalism. So we will look at these three things in the next session, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.